Welcome to our online election board worker training for clerks and judges. We normally like to do training in person, but with the current environment, we know it's best to do training in this manner. While we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, it is important for all of us to remain safe. Specific instructions on safety at your polling site will be addressed at the end of this training. This training will allow you to understand your roles as clerks and judges. Each election board worker will be issued an election board manual. There will also be a manual in the Blue Book. Please read it thoroughly prior to Election Day. If you received your manual, please follow along as we will continually refer to it throughout the training. The manual is also available on our website under the Election Board Worker Information link. Election Board general information will be found on pages 1 to 4 of your manual. A normal election board consists of an inspector, a clerk, and a judge. For this election, clerks and judges will be willing to serve in both positions. Depending on the size of the precinct, some precincts may have additional workers. Basic requirements for poll workers are good eyesight, ability to sit from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., ability to follow instructions and write legibly, the ability to assist in setting up the polling area, including setting up the polling booths and the express vote. State law requires election board workers to attend training prior to each statewide election. This online election board training will count as your training. There is a quiz on our election board worker information page on our website for inspectors. Once you take that quiz, you'll be credited with taking the training. Election board conduct. Refrain from excessive and loud visiting with each others. Treat all voters with courtesy. Avoid asking personal questions of a voter unless required as an election duty. TVs, radios, and newspapers are not allowed because of political advertisements. Do not engage in any political conversations while conducting the election. Do not smoke inside any polling place. Use the designated exterior smoking area. We have two types of election board workers. Appointed election board workers have been assigned to a specific precinct or polling place for a 2-year period. Reserve election board workers are substitute workers who have been called upon to take the place of an appointed worker who is unable to serve a specific election. Breaks and lunches are allowed. The board should work together to make sure that there are 15-minute breaks in the morning and afternoon and also 30 minutes for lunch. The inspector is responsible for the payroll sheet. First thing in the morning of the election, each board worker should print his or her information on the payroll sheet and include an emergency contact name and phone number. Clerks and judges are paid $9 per hour and also paid for training. If you are not working in your home precinct, it is important to request an early vote ballot. Applications are available on our website at www.lancaster.ne.gov/election. Emergency procedures are located on page 4 of the manual. For severe weather, follow the building's emergency procedures. Move to a place of shelter. Without jeopardizing the safety of workers or voters, the board should take ballots, ballot box, and the list of voters in the sign-in register with them. Election Day information is located on pages 7 and 8 of the manual. Election board workers should report to their polling place at 7 a.m. to assist in setting up for the day. Polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. No voter may cast a ballot prior to 8 a.m., and anyone who is in line at 8 p.m. must be allowed to vote. If a line forms, please check to see if all voters are in the correct location. If there is more than one precinct located at the polling location, please make sure they are in the right line. Electioneering. There's no type of electioneering for any candidate or measure that is currently on the ballot for the current election within 200 feet of any polling location unless it is on private property not controlled by the ownership of the building in which the polling place is located. All cell phones should be silenced but are not required to be turned off. A voter may take a picture or a selfie of them casting or marking their own ballot. A voter may challenge another voter's eligibility to vote. This does not happen very often, but a challenge oath is located in the supply box. It is printed on goldenrod colored paper. You may answer questions from the media regarding the number of people who have voted. If they persist in asking additional questions, please have them call the election office at 402-441-7311. Election day visitors will include district inspectors, express vote technicians, observers, and exit pollers. If you did not work in the 2020 primary or general elections, but have worked previously, you will notice there are several things that are different this year. The express vote. This machine replaces the automark, which we have used in the past several years to assist voters with disabilities to vote in private and unassisted. Ballots now have a coding track, those little white black boxes, on all four sides of the ballot. Previously, the coding track was just on the left side of the ballot. Voters will mark their ballot with black ink. You will also notice the ovals are smaller. Judges will initial the ballot in red ink, and please keep the initials within the initials box. Manual pages 9 through 15 outline the duties of the inspector. Since this is training for clerks and judges, we will not discuss this with the clerks and judges. Manual pages 16 to 20 outline general instructions for clerks. Clerk 1 is responsible for the list of registered voters, which is located in the Blue Book. The Blue Book is a 3-ring binder, which will be located in the ballot box when the inspector picks up supplies. Contents of the Blue Book include a signature guide, which can be used as a guide for a voter with vision issues to sign on the correct line in the sign-in register. The list of registered voters. Voters' names are listed in alphabetical order. The number of the voter appears in the list of the voters is in the first column. The clerk will also print the line number from the sign-in register in the first column. The second column lists the voter's date of birth. The third column lists the voter's name and address. If there is a check mark to the right of the voter's name under the ID required heading, this only means that the voter needs to provide proper ID in order to vote. There are only a handful of voters in the county required to do this. Instructions for this is on page 17 of the manual. The fourth column lists the precinct number and ballot styles. Most precincts only have one ballot style, but there are a few precincts that have more than one. This is important to make sure that the voter is given the correct ballot for this election. The fifth column is where the clerk will print the voter's name once the clerk has verified all of the information in the third column. If the word inactive is listed in the fifth column, it means that the election office has received some type of information that the voter may no longer live at that address. Please double check that the voter does live at that address before allowing the voter to vote. If the voter has a new address, the voter needs to vote in the precinct of his or her new address. If the word absentee is listed in the fifth column, it means that the voter has been issued an early vote absentee ballot. If the voter still wants to vote, the voter must vote a provisional ballot. The sixth column has a barcode which represents the voter's registration number, and it is used after the election by the election office staff. The correction notations page is on yellow paper. This is the page where the election board may place any corrections for the election staff to follow up after the election. The provisional ballot page is on pink paper. Any voter who votes provisionally must be listed on this page. The payroll form is found in the Blue Book is on green paper. The inspector is required to make sure this is completed correctly. The ballot log card is also located in the Blue Book. Election Day Poll Worker Hotline is 402-441-9090. Election board workers may use this phone number to reach an election staff member to assist them if they have any questions. There is also an abbreviated instruction sheet for election board workers that outlines the responsibility of each worker. There's an instruction sheet which will assist the election board on how to access the voter check website information if you have access to a smartphone, tablet, or laptop at your polling location. This sheet is an outline of polling place accessibility guidelines for the election board workers to review and make sure that their polling site meets all of the requirements. An election board manual is also located in your Blue Book. An individual precinct map is also located in the Blue Book. A listing of possible emergencies and how to handle them is located in the Blue Book as well. The clerk's duties are on pages 15 to 18. The clerk will check the voter in. The clerk will ask the voter for his or her name, and then locate them in the list of registered voters. The clerk then asks the voter for his or her address and verifies that it matches the address listed in the list of voters. The clerk checks for the ballot style of the voter if you're in one of the precincts that has more than one ballot style. The clerk then will print the voter's name legibly in the 5th column under the printed name of voter. And then they'll print the line number from the sign-in register where the voter assigned their name. Important. It is very important. The clerk must print the voter's name under the printed name of voter column, verifying all information. When the inspector picks up supplies, he or she will be provided with a list of voters who have voted early after the poll books are printed. One poll worker should print the word absentee in the list of voters next to the voter's name. This is a listing of precincts that have more than one ballot style for this election. If a voter notes an error in the list of voters, such as transposing of letters in the name, or that there is someone in the list who no longer lives in Lancaster County, this should be listed on the corrections and notations page. It's on yellow paper. Once the voter has been checked in, then they'll move to the sign-in register. Usually we have 2 clerks do this, but whether it's a clerk or judge, they're responsible for the sign-in register. The sign-in register will be found in the ballot box along with ballots that the inspector has picked up. This is a picture of what the inside of the sign-in register looks like. Once the voter has been verified, including the name and address and ballot style, the clerk will then provide that information to clerk number 2, and clerk number 2 will print the voter's name under clerk prints voter's name in the sign-in register and places a check mark under the appropriate columns on the left side of the sign-in register. Then the clerk turns the sign-in book around and the voter signs his or her name and prints his or her address. Now we'll move to the judges. The judges' information can be found on page 21 through 23 of the manual. The judges are responsible for issuing the ballot. Remember, we no longer are marking ballots with pencils. Judges will initial the ballot with red ink pen, and please keep initials within the initials box. 2 judges, or a clerk and a judge of different political party affiliations, must initial the ballot in order to make it official. If you're serving in one of those precincts with more than one ballot style, the ballot style number will be indicated on the lower left-hand corner of the ballot. This is a sample of a ballot for this election. Also, new for this year, voters will be marking their ballot with black ink. We will no longer be using pencil. The judge should give the following instructions to the voter, and this is located on page 22 of the manual. Blacken the ovals of your choice completely. Use only the black ink provided. Do not cross out. If you change your mind, ask for a new ballot. Inform the voter that the ballot has 2 sets of initials to making it official. When finished voting, bring the ballot back to in the ballot sleeve so that both sets of initials are shown. This is a sample of the ballot sleeves. The judge's initials must appear in the cut at the bottom of the ballot sleeve. The voter will then go to the appropriate polling booth or to the express vote to cast his or her ballot. The judge then is responsible for, a second judge is responsible for initialing ballots and processing voted ballots. When the voter brings the ballot back to the judge in the ballot sleeve, the judge should look for the initials in the opening of the bottom of the ballot sleeve, verify that the ballot is official. That means 2 sets of initials at the bottom. If that is the case, then the ballot is deposited in the ballot box. The voter If the voter makes an error on the ballot, the voter may request a new ballot. The ballot with the error on it must be spoiled by the voter writing void on the ballot, and the voter must voter is then issued a new official ballot. The ballot is marked void, is placed in the spoiled ballot envelope. If the ballot is returned to the judge and there are no initials or only one set of initials, then the ballot must be rejected and the voter is issued a new ballot. The voter should write rejected on the ballot and then issued a new official ballot. The rejected ballot is placed in the rejected ballot envelope. Provisional ballot procedures are located on pages 24 to 26 of the manual. Provisional voting allows a voter to cast a ballot if their eligibility is in question or otherwise would not be permitted to vote at their polling place. The content of the provisional ballot is no different than a regular ballot, but is cast provisionally until the election officials can verify that the voter's eligibility to vote and are voting at the correct precinct at that election. The reasons a voter would need to vote provisionally: 1, the voter has moved to a new street address even if it is in the same precinct. The voter is flagged absentee in the list of voters but has decided to vote at their regular polling place on election day. Or 3, the voter is flagged ID required in the list of registered voters but does not provide the appropriate identification. This information is on page 17 of the manual. Each precinct will have approximately 50 provisional ballot packets. In the front of each provisional ballot packet, there will be a provisional ballot voting checklist with step-by-step instructions. Step 1, verify that the voter is at the correct precinct and polling location. This can be done by using the maps provided in the Blue Book and supply box. They can also use the voter check website, and those instructions are in the Blue Book. Or they could call the election office and call the Election Day poll worker hotline at 402-441-9090 to make sure you have the voter's name, date of birth, and new address. The election board worker and voter must complete all 4 sections of the provisional ballot application. Section 1, poll worker completes this portion, which includes the location of the polling location where the voter is voting, plus the reason the voter is voting provisionally. Section 2, voter completes this section with their new address. This section is a Nebraska voter registration application. Section 3, the voter selects a 5-digit PIN, personal identification number, which will allow the voter to find out after the election whether their ballot was counted or not and the reason the ballot was not counted. And Section 4 is where the voter signs the application form. The provisional ballot envelope. Section 1, the voter must complete and sign. Section 2, the election board completes and sign. Please be aware that if the voter does not sign the oath on this application form, the ballot cannot be counted according to state law. Make sure that the clerk will print the voter's name, address, and line number from the sign-in register on the provisional voter page in the Blue Book. Clerk will print the voter's name in the sign-in register along with the appropriate check marks, including a check mark under the provisional ballot column. Then the voter will sign their name and print their address. Voters needing assistance information may be found on page 27 of your manual. If a family member or friend assists the voter, the person assisting the voter must sign the voter assistance oath in the front of the sign-in register. Express vote information is on page 27 of the manual. The state of Nebraska has purchased new machines that assist voters with disabilities to be able to vote in private and unassisted. There is a separate video available on our website explaining how to operate the express vote. This machine replaces the old Automark, which was heavy and cumbersome to set up, operate, and move. There's a separate video available on our website explaining how to operate the express vote. There's also a 2-page instruction sheet that explains how to set up the express vote. In addition, an express vote technician will visit your polling site first thing in the morning to make sure you have it set up correctly. There will be a 2-page instruction sheet on how to simply set up the express vote, both located in your supply box and in the express vote container. Closing of the polling place is on page 29 of your manual. Sign all forms. Place all unused ballots in the clear plastic bag with the yellow unused ballot insert. Make sure your rejected ballots are sealed in the rejected ballot envelope. Make sure any unused but initial ballots or any spoiled ballots are sealed in the spoiled ballot envelope. Include everything listed in the sign-in register envelope has been placed in that envelope. Put all supplies neatly back into the supply box and clean up the voting area. The voted ballot procedure is on page 31 of the manual. At the end of the day, 2 poll workers of different party affiliations will open the ballot box and count the number of ballots, including the express vote ballots cast plus the number of provisional ballots in section 1. Once this step is completed, then place the ballots, including provisional ballots and express vote ballots, in the ballot transport box along with the ballot log card. In the supply box, you will find seals for the transport ballot box. You'll find on the ballot transport box where the seals should be applied. In the supply box, you'll find name tags with a lanyard. Please place your name on the name tag. Each precinct will be provided with a polling site sanitation kit, which will include mask and shield for poll workers, masks to be offered to voters if they do not have one, a large bottle of hand sanitizer, masks and shields for poll workers, 25 pairs of gloves, canisters of disinfecting wipes, disinfecting spray, paper towels. Specific instructions will be provided with your supplies. Social distancing is important. Please keep 6 feet distance between voters in line. Please mark the lines with the blue painter's tape and space them 6 feet apart. Also, please place polling booths 6 feet apart. You may also place a polling booth further away for voters who are not wearing masks. Thank you for your help, and good luck on Election Day.